All right. We couldn't get music. A little disappointed not to have our theme song introduce us. I know people like the intro, but we're live. Let's make sure. Let's check the comments. If you can hear us, if we sound good, if somebody could drop a comment.
Yeah, drop a Q. If we sound bad, we will end this real quick and record a pod. But just this is the most important part. So make sure we're good, and then we're ready to rock. Because this is the most important pod of the week on YouTube, Twitter. This is where it's all the money's made right here.
Yeah, boots on the ground. We are live from Largs, Scotland. We're about 25 minutes north of Troon. We've been up and down the coast. We're down to Prestwick and everywhere in between. We're getting thumbs up. The sound is perfect.
Beautiful.
That's what we want to hear. We're
Beautiful.
feeling good. It's almost 11 p.m. here in Scotland, which means the sun just recently set, and it'll probably be rising again in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's you can golf here virtually 24 hours of the day. I said to Adam when we were getting dinner at the Spoon, if one day we got filthy rich and just had disposable income, I'm buying a place in Largs, Scotland, because the golf, the atmosphere, everything around this area is just, it's top notch.
How we've done boots now at TPC Saw to start the year. We went to Hunter's giving the thumbs up. Shout out Hunter, our boy. We went to Valhalla in Louisville. We went down to Pine in Pine, and now we have been to Troon here in Scotland. All calculating vibes, boots experience, and the course. Where do you rank them so far? Right out of the gates.
I honestly think they virtually go in order, because Scotland, Jacksonville, we didn't golf. It was kind of a quick trip. I live in Florida, so I just came up on the last minute. So that wasn't the full boots experience. And then, so I'll say Louisville last, and then Pine second. But Pine was elite, by the way. Pine was elite. And then Largs is just topping it all. Scotland is insane. It's my first time out of the United States. So definitely a bit of a culture shock for me. So I've never left the Jersey Shore, Florida. I've been there my entire life, and now I'm in Scotland, and this is awesome. Definitely.
Yeah, I will say it has been an honor to be a part of your first international experience across the P here in Scotland. We'll I think we'll do about, let's say, 45 minutes on the course, because that's what the people who don't listen to the pod on. Obviously, we get more people who come join in on the Boots Weeks. We'll dive into the good stuff here right away. We'll get into the golf. We'll get into the course. It's tremendous links design here in Scotland. And then at the end, maybe 20, 30 minutes, we'll dive into the lifestyle.
That's for the ball knowers. The ball knowers are there.
The more off the Troon course boots experience that we've had here. Jay's asking about the gym situation in Scotland. We'll get all of that good stuff. That's for the everyday listeners of the pod, who obviously we appreciate. Before we get started, as always, if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, if you could like and subscribe to the pod, we really appreciate that. It helps us expand this and keep this going. This will, very likely be the last boots on the ground of this year, but next year will be honest soon enough, and we'd love to be able to keep this going and expand it. And then we're going to cover some keys to the course. We'll talk about some of the guys that we saw today, but far and away, the deep dives, the bets, all of that type of stuff, write-ups on so many different players.
Yeah.
Everything we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, both yesterday, today, and again tomorrow. All that's going to be up on the site. It's $9.99 for a weekly subscription, $34.99 if you want to do the monthly. Obviously, there's more events coming up the rest of the year. We'll have Barracuda stuff up there soon enough this week. So, again, we always say this. I started this a couple of years ago, started going to some of these events because if somebody bets on golf, the data point that I always felt was missing on major weeks was, we don't have the stats. We don't have all that information that we have on a weekly basis. And so by going and getting the boots on the ground, providing that color and that context, to add just another data point to, obviously we still care about the stats and the models. And we don't just watch a guy and go, we're going to bet him just because of what we saw. I mean, sometimes we do that. But this is just another data point. We're going to have some stuff that's right. We're going to have some stuff that's wrong. But if you want to support this content, if you want to have it keep going next year, if maybe you want more events outside of the majors to have this type of stuff, we'd love if you could grab a weekly subscription. I can't promise you win money, but I can promise you'll get $10 worth of information from there. And I can promise you that we'll give everything we've got to give you the best information that we can. Boots on the ground here in Scotland. So with that, Jers, let's just get to it. Royal Troon, down the coast from us, right on the water. Front nine goes out along the water. Back nine turns around, comes back just on the other side there. A great boots experience because we always talk, you want to be able to see as many players as you can. When the front nine and the back nine are integrated and you can easily jump across, that is a glorious boots experience. But just right out of the gate, give me the keys. We always do this too when we start off. Like, was there anything you thought about the course based on maybe things you heard or videos you watched before we came here that are different from what you're now seeing actually boots on the ground? But what are the keys? What are you looking for based on what you see?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in our little circles we have, there's a ton of amazing content, a ton of stuff that you can't get anywhere else. So I did my research. I'm sure Adam did some research too, had our ideas of the course. But what you guys are about to hear, like, you're not going to get from anywhere else. We are your eyes. We are just like you guys, from ball nowhere to ball nowhere, boots on the ground every single step of the course. So I would say going into the course, I had a bit more of a linksy general feel. Like, all right, we're in Scotland. It's links golf. And not that that's not the case, but this is, I would say, the most ball striking positional links course that I've ever laid my eyes on. So just from there, I would say it's less of a true links design than, but not like the Renaissance where it's like that modern links that they throw out. It's just a less of a true links design where the around the green, you can hit it anywhere. That's not the case at all.
Yeah, and I think what you mean is when you think of a links, you think of like these firm and fast courses. You've got guys putting, from 50 yards off the green, which I did myself today at Prestwick. Yes. I took the putter out from pretty far off the green today. But this, to me, and I don't often, and I talk about this every time I do the boots on the ground. I don't do a lot of research before we go to the course because I don't want it to
sway your mind.
Yeah, sway my mind, because there's been times we've done boots on the ground where I've gone to the course and I thought it was going to be one thing, and then I'm like, wait, is it what I thought it was, or is it what my eyes are seeing? What my eyes are seeing this week is one of the strongest ball striking tests of honestly most of the major venues that I've gone to over the last couple of years, not just links courses.
You've been to a ton, like you've been, and
to the US Open.
You both go to a ton of courses. Like, this is a true.
Yeah, we've been to the PGA, and this course is for elite ball strikers. Yeah, and we've come on this pod talking about Valhalla, and we said this is a joke of a course. This is an easy course.
Someone's going to gain infinity strokes putting. Yeah,
you can gain infinity strokes putting. You can make a ton of birdies. Then we went to Pine, and we saw a course where the driving was pretty open off of the tee, and it was going to be about around the greens and things like that. There was the distance bias, obviously, that Rory and Bryson were able to take advantage of. The best way maybe to think about it is we've seen at majors, you see at the US Open, there's the rough videos. People they toss the ball in the rough. And at Pine, we were seeing people toss the ball into
a legitimate tree.
Yeah, basically trying to fake that the rough was going to be a problem. And really what we were seeing was the ball plinking around the rough, and it was easy to cut it stuff.
That's one of our biggest victory laps, because we nailed the Pinehurst rough
lap on the Plinko at Pinehurst. But this rough is
no joke.
So penal, first of all, so thick, so penal. Just off the fairways, it's so deep that you're gonna have, sometimes you can't advance it to the greens, and other times you're gonna have no control advancing into the greens. You get a little further off of just the first 5 yards off the fairway, you get further left than that, it's waist high. You're gonna lose your ball. Like, you could be standing and watch a ball fly into this stuff, and you could lose it.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you've played golf, you've been in some wispy grass before, and even if you watched Opens of the past, you've seen the wispy grass. You know what I'm talking about. 9 times out of 10, you can get a club through it, advance it at most. There's places you can hit through it here, but a majority of it is true. You might lose your ball if there's not a crowd around you and there's just a volunteer. They might not find it. So you can talk about that.
We were joking. We have a take that, I mean, this is a semi tongue-in-cheek take, but the best players, the ones with a big crowd following them, actually are going to have a huge advantage, because when they hit it into the rough, they're going to be able to find their ball. There's going to be guys who go out like early, or they're playing late because it's light all
like a random golfer.
Some random guy with like 3 people following him. His ball goes into the rough. He's probably going to lose it.
And I'm sure they'd find it if there was like 30 people around, or like they waited 5 more minutes. But it's just, you can lose your ball if you throw it in front of you. It's just that deep and that thick and that.
And it very rarely like sits up on top. Like, you could watch your ball land exactly where it is, and it'd be tough to find because it buries underneath this stuff. And that's just the rough. The even maybe not bigger, because I'd say they're of equal penalty, is these bunkers.
Yeah.
These are true
links
penalty stroke bunkers. I called it on the site that the rough and the bunkers in total are like 0.75 stroke penalties when you hit into it. Because have we seen a single guy hit it to the green from a fairway bunker one time?
No, not one time. And like these are true to what we've seen at links courses in the past few
Royal
years.
St. George's, I think, comes to mind.
They are deep. They are
embedded faces. There, when you think of a links course bunker,
that.
But now you put them in the fairway, and we haven't. The nice thing I would say is, and I think this makes it fair, is this isn't. I think it was at
that Colin one.
And then, the other column, but also at Royal Liverpool, those balls were rolling up into the face
of
the bunkers. Remember after the first round, they had to like add more sand.
Right.
No, they're fair. The ball goes into the bunker and it sits down, normally as it should. The faces are just too hot.
No, what I was saying was the year that Colin won, the fairways kind of caromed in directions that like put the ball towards the bunker. That's not really the case here. Like there's like mounds in the fairway, but they're not like really designed where you hit a ball in the fairway and it would just carom towards it. It's a fair test. You either hit it in the bunker or you don't. You could easily avoid it with a good shot. Like great shots are going to get rewarded. There's not going to be. I mean, it's links. There's going to be some bad breaks, but there's not going to be as many like what the fuck is going on.
I will say it was sick yesterday. They were mowing only certain spots on the course. The only places they were mowing was like the 5 yards around the bunker. So if you are rolling towards it, it is going to go in. But to your point, you're not going to get like ricocheted off of a hill or something. Right. It's very fair, relatively flat. There's not a very much elevation change. There's a few holes with elevation change, and we'll get to the hole by hole here in a minute. That's kind of the thing we like to do, and just kind of go through the holes so people can talk about it. But when we talk through the holes, it becomes a little bit easier to visualize. But from the tee, you have to put the ball in the fairway, and on the front nine, it's very much a tale of two nines too on this course. The front nine, you described it as Pebble Beach on the front, Sawgrass, and Sawgrass, Pebble Beach on the front because it's short positional. You can hit iron on pretty much iron or wood on every hole except one or two. Like on the par fives, you probably want to hit driver. But then the back nine is Torrey Pines. You've got to hit driver straight down the middle on long holes consistently. The course asks
every question.
There's not. Because when we're talking about all this penal bunkering and this rough, I would guarantee a lot of people, and this is kind of what ours was too, is like accuracy. Got to be accuracy. Let's value accuracy over everything.
Wait till you get to the back nine.
Wait till you get the back nine, because we watched a guy like Russell Henley today, a guy I think we're both high on this week. I think he fits the course for the most part. But on the back nine, he was having to kind of swing out of his shoes. He was still hitting. Henley was hitting it good. So he was overcoming this. But we see these guys reasonable enough now. For Henley to have to kind of reach back and go after it to get in position just shows that it's not just accuracy. It's distance and accuracy. It's total driving. Like I described it as, I want strokes gained off the tee, but I need a guy who's also, let's say you go to a site and you can sort by off the tee. I don't want to see that accuracy column negative either. I kind of want to see positive in each of those areas, just because I think over 4 rounds, just playing it safe, just laying back specifically on the back nine. Again, you could play it safe, I think, on the front nine and still make some birdies, still have some opportunities. For me, I didn't come into a links course. I've seen people compare this to Royal Liverpool. I was at Royal Liverpool last year. I can't think of many drives at Royal Liverpool where I was like, this is a serious drive. Like most of them, I was like, most guys could hit good drives here. This is you got to step up and hit some drives on this course.
Yeah, and Adam and I have been in the camp like at Valhalla and at Pinehurst. No player is intimidated all over the off the tee. No player. It's like, okay, I see my target, I go hit the ball. At Royal Troon, every single player, and even on the layup holes, they are very visually intimidating. Tee shots, you got to step up, you got to have balls, you got to hit a golf shot, and that's even on the front nine. I mentioned it's a Sawgrass comp. You got to be accurate. You got to be sometimes positional, sometimes lay back. Obviously, you're not hitting into a water if you're off the fairway. You're hitting into penal rough. But even those short layup shots, they are a visual pretzel for sure.
Yeah, I can think of, and we'll do the hole by hole in a second here, but I think 7 might be the only drive. If you hit iron off the tee on 7, where like it's not that intimidating, but even there, if you push it or pull it, the bunkers are waiting for you. Like, and 1, for example, 1, 2, and 3 are the easiest
holes on the course.
Holes on the course for sure. They're ironed off the tee, maybe a 3-wood, maybe a hybrid. But 1 has out of bounds 5 yards to the right off the tee or off the fairway, and bunkers down the left, and then deep rough on each side of that. 2 is very similar to 1. The OB is a little bit further to the right, but not too much. 3's got all sorts of weird stuff going on that we'll talk about. But yeah, great point that even the easy drives, and we're doing quotes for people who are going to listen on, Spotify and Apple. And also, if you listen on there, throw a 5-star review if you enjoy what's going on. But no easy drives.
No easy
driving
drives.
test. You got to have dog off the tee this week, and that's not something I think has been true at Royal Liverpool. I was at St. Andrews the year before. That's obviously not something that was true there. This is going to be, to me, one of the tougher driving tests in an Open in recent years. And let's do approach. Let's talk through each of the categories, and then we'll do the hole by hole. Because then we get to approach. So, all right, your ball's in the fairway. You're good. You're going to have a mix of every type of iron shot.
Yeah, this course truly asks you. It's one of the most we handicap golf every single week. This course probably asks you the most questions and the most differences hole by hole than any course I could probably remember that we do every single week. So
yeah, you're gonna hit wedges, you're gonna hit mid irons. The par 3s are all except the postage stamp. Obviously, shout out the postage stamp. We'll talk about it, but the postage stamp, not as small as I thought it would be. I'm going to be honest, a little bit bigger than I thought. I've seen smaller greens. I've seen tighter approaches, I will admit. But you're going to hit over 200 yards, a reasonable amount. You're going to have, if you want to attack the par 5s, you're going to have to hit from 250. You're going to have to hit 3 woods. And if you miss your approach into the par 5s, on at least one of them, you could lose your golf ball. And on other, you could get in the bunkers. Like if you want to make birdies on the par 5s, you're gonna have to step up and stripe one with a long iron or a wood. So you're gonna have to hit all of your irons. But what I would say is the big numbers, the guys who are gonna make double bogeys, because they're gonna be doubles, they're gonna be triples. Hole 11, you can make a 10. Apparently Jack Nicklaus made it. Before I knew this, I said to Jers on the 11th hole, I said somebody's gonna make a 10 on this hole. Anyone could make a 10 on this hole. There's out of bounds down the entire right side, and then there's gorse. The thing about the gorse is there's probably 6 to 7 holes have this gorse that are basically, if you don't know what gorse is, they're like prickly trees that aren't trees and bushes kind of. If your ball goes into it, you will not find it. It's basically OB because you have zero hope of finding your ball once it goes in there. 11 has that down both sides all the way to the green, and it's 500 yards. I said somebody's going to make a 10. We found out Jack Nicklaus made a 10 on that hole. So,
if you ever heard of him, he's a good golfer. He was a good golfer.
He's had success in major.
He did all right.
Historically.
Yeah.
But that's where the big numbers are going to come. And also, you drive into the bunker, you're going to have to chip out. So now you're hitting your third, basically giving up you're sacrificing a stroke. Once you get into the fairway, it's still difficult. The approach shots are difficult. They're visually intimidating. The bunkering looks like a challenge. You're okay once you get in the fairway. I don't think you can fuck up that badly once you get in the fairway on most of the holes. And so it's get in the fairway, and then you will be able to attack in certain areas with your iron play. Well, the number of longer irons is going to make it so that it's going to be tough to really stuff it in there on any holes besides the opening holes, which are wedges. But it's a hardcore ball striking test, but I think it skews a tiny bit off the tee just because you're okay.
Yeah, once you get off the tee. And from what we've seen so far and possibly going forward, you're going to be able to stop the ball on the green. It's not going to be a rock hard, firm test. It's because of a few reasons. Because I think we might get some rain going forward in the week. And also, this course is so coastal, so they can only keep the greens so hard. They have to really maintain them a certain way. So the greens aren't like a TPC, like a John Deere Classic soft, but they're not like some majors rock hard. Guys are going to be able to stop wedges. And more than any links course that I've ever seen, you're going to have to keep your ball in the air a ton. You're going to have to be able to launch your ball high in the air with long irons, obviously with wedges to get it to stop in these specific positions. Most links courses, you can use the ground, run it up. It's not really possible here. There's they're guarded by bunkers in the front right corner. So this is more of a.
I think there's a really good point here by Zach. He says, does the uptick in tee to green, and we'll actually talk in a second. I would say more ball striking than tee to green, just because we'll talk the around green in a second. I'd take that out of the equation. I'd say ball striking specifically lead to the unusual history of Americans winning so often here. What is American golf? Hit it long and straight, hit it high. So yes, I think that does make sense in the course. Now, with that being said, I think we've seen players from all different countries that were interested in.
They could do that now, yeah, but that wasn't always the style.
Yeah, great point. Historically, now most of the good European players, a lot of the international players, are playing on the PGA Tour. They're playing in the US or before Live now, but they're used to that style of golf. But definitely, I think that makes sense of why that would be a trend historically. Let's get to the around the greens, because that's something that, like you said at the beginning, certain links courses that's testy, certain times it's not.
This is definitely the most interesting takes.
Yeah, I think this will be a take that I feel pretty confident in, but could backfire, I guess. But we really see around the green play devalued this week for a couple of reasons. Taking the bunkers out. If you're in the bunkers, you're gonna have to hit good bunker shots. Like I would say, around the green bunker play will matter, but everything else, chipping, pitching, those types of things, putting from off the green, which you can do in a reasonable number of places, it's all very easy. There, we've played, the way I wrote it up on the site is we've played a few different links courses in the area. We played Prestwick, which is right next door to Troon. It's very similar grass types. I think the green surrounds are relatively similar. I genuinely think if, let's say I decided that, or somehow we were going to play Scotty's golf ball after he hit the tee shots in the approaches, we would get, and he misses green, I think we could get a reasonable number of it. We're okay golfers at best. Like, we've been getting it up, and like it's the same as the links courses we've been playing around the area. There's nothing unique about these around the green conditions. It's pretty standard. The greens are slowish and they're flat. These guys, we really even haven't seen guys like at Pine, for example. We saw guys practicing short game for 30 minutes on each hole, trying
night and day difference.
Shots. They're kind of just tossing the ball down. They chip it up. It lands right next to where they're going to. Every style of player, good chippers, bad chippers, everyone in between. And the other piece is, and why it leads back to the ball striking, is because when you're in the fairway and you approach to the green, if you miss by, let's say, 5 yards, or you miss a little bit, you miss the green, you're good. You're gonna have a chance to kind of get it up and down, save your par. If you miss by 10 yards, 15 on the par 5, you try to attack it with the 3-wood and you blow it 15 yards right, you're boned. It's going to be a terrible live. You even could lose a golf ball. You're going to be boned.
This is the most balls that you can lose on par 3s and second shots that I've ever seen.
100%. And because of that, like, you're either going to have an easy chip or you're going to be boned. So there's really no in between.
That's what I wanted to make this take. So we're devaluing around the green because straightforward chips, everyone is going to be able to get them up and down. But that's not always the case at some links golf courses, some hard golf courses. You have like a quote unquote straightforward chip. Your ball is just off the green. You have to get it to a pin 15 to 20 yards back. There's a lot of slopes. It's firm. It's grainy. Those are tough. And the guys are good at that. And guys are not good at that. Here, it's very straightforward. But if you're in a bunker, you're behind a bush, no matter what that is, it's going to be so hard that it doesn't matter. So the hard ones are going to be very hard for the best around the green players on tour, and the easy ones are going to be easy for everyone. So around the green play, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like you just can't differentiate yourself, because even if you're really good, the only time you could show that off, you're going to be so boned that it's going to be tough to show off. The only guy we saw doing amazing things,
John Rahm.
John Rahm was special. We've watched, like, watching Cam Smith around the greens every time we see him is always one of the coolest things you can see, because he hits these amazing shots. Rahm was saucing the ball.
He was smirking. He knew it too.
He literally laughed after, like, they put these white cups, fake cups down after he basically chipped in, even though there's no hole there, off of like the downslope in the back of the bunker, so close to the lip that like you could whiff it. We've done that. Like, we've been playing these bunkers. Like, you can hit the back of the bunker when you go to hit it to a short-sided pin. And he was effectively making it. He did it like 8 times, and he started laughing. And he literally was like, "Yeah, I'm good."
And then he picked his ball up and started hitting like 30 to 40-yard chip shots and rolled them all over the white. I would have paid to watch this 15-minute short game display that John Rahm put on. I mean, I've seen a ton of great chippers. He's got those Spanish hands, and
we got to see the Seve. We saw Seve.
We saw
the Seve experience from Rahm. So there may be some times where guys get super boned and they hit, amazing shots. But your point is, across the board, on average, over 4 rounds, over 72 holes of the tournament, we think it's going to be tough to differentiate yourself around the greens. And then the putting, the greens are very manageable. They remind me of Liverpool in that sense. The Liverpool greens were very flat. These have a little bit more nuance to them, a little bit more break, but they're slow. Good putters will make a lot of putts. And then the takeaway that could be, you could just make a ton of putts and win that way or get into the mix.
Good.
You could.
You got to get there. You got to get there.
You got to get there with the ball striking. I think it becomes a a putting contest among the 5 to 10 guys who have ball struck it well enough, hit enough greens to be involved in the putting contest. And then, you're not going to be able to.
Not like Valhalla, where everyone was hitting the greens. Everyone was hitting it to 20 feet at Valhalla. This is not going to be the case. There's going to be the ball striking is going to be so extreme and so tough that only X amount of guys are going to be position themselves.
And where I would go back to Liverpool last year when I was there in the practice rounds. Every guy was hitting a lot of greens. Or at least every style of golfer, like the short hitters were the average ball strikers. Everybody was hitting enough greens to like 30 feet, and it was windy enough that it was going to be a putting contest. And we saw Brian Harmon gain infinity strokes putting. Same at St. Andrews. Cam Smith gained infinity strokes putting. So the last 2 years, we've seen winners do it with the flat stick. I just think it's too penal this week. You can get boned too easily by bad ball striking. That sure, there's going to be guys who the first round leader is probably going to make infinity putts and be first round leader that way. If you're doing showdown or things like that, there's going to be guys who have spike putting rounds and play well. But over 72 holes, the winners of the tournament, the guys who end up at the top of the leaderboard, I just don't think you can get there without elite ball striking. And so let's quickly fly through the holes.
Do you want to do weather first or holes first? Let's do holes first because
let's do the weather really quick, just because I think it's the length and people will be thinking about that. And so somebody just asked about it. We came into the week. We wanted to know the wind direction. We wanted to know about the wind. We were really
like all of you guys. We were like split. Like let's find this wind. So
it turns out that the wind kind of swirls throughout the day. It changes directions a lot. It kind of mixes. The weather throughout the day
also changes.
Yeah, if you go on the weather on the site or on a website or we're on the ground, so we just open up the weather app and you see it. It says the weather is going to be basically kind of the same throughout the day. Like today was going to be 60 degrees and clouds the whole day, and the wind was going to be kind of light and variable. And if you look at the app, you would see the exact same weather. We probably saw like 3 or 4 different types of weather. All of a sudden, around like 3 o'clock, it got freezing cold and a little extra windy, but that wasn't in the weather description whatsoever. And so what I would say is a lot of the wind comes off the west. Like the most consistent wind is off the west, whether it's coming from the north or the south. It's a little bit variable, but it's always going to be coming mainly from the west. And because of that, it's going to be a crosswind on most of the holes.
Yeah.
And due to that, it just leads me back to wanting guys who flush it.
Yeah.
Because if you flush the ball in a crosswind, that's the best way to fight through it. You're going to be an elite ball striker. It just takes us back to what we want.
It emphasizes our stuff even more. And no matter which way the wind blows, don't try to chase trying to predict it. It's only going to make some holes harder, some holes easier. More times than not, the first 6 holes will play down off the right to down, and then from there it leaves the other holes to cross holes / into. But no matter where the wind is, don't chase it because it can change in a second, and it's not like it just emphasizes your key stats. Whether they're not our key stats, it emphasizes every key stat even more. So.
Yeah, and I would say I was looking at the weather, and on the site on probably Wednesday we'll have our final thoughts on the weather and things like that. There could be there's the potential of an advantage that I started to see when I looked at the weather forecast, because yes, if it's predicted to below 5 miles an hour and then later in the day it's predicted to below 20, that's one thing. So far this week, it hasn't been like that. Now, obviously, the forecast this week so far also hasn't been as windy. It may be a little bit more windy in the week, but we're from the type of players we want perspective, we're not factoring in the wind. But yeah, if there's going to be some sort of split or something like that, then we'll want to factor it in. But it's not something that I would overthink. Pick the guys that you want to pick because they match the ball striking. And then, yeah, if for some reason it turns out there's going to be like 30 miles an hour wind and other guys are going to get to play in 5, then yeah, you may not want to go to that guy. But don't go be like, oh, it's windy this week, or whatever. I just wouldn't overthink it in that category.
Yeah.
Before we get to the hole by hole, an important question, weather related, from Nick. Who had the crispiest sweater out there today? Who to you looked like they were most at home besides Tyrrell Hatton? Because Tyrrell Hatton was the only guy wearing a polo and shorts. Tyrrell Hatton clearly looked the most comfortable on the links. But from a sweater perspective, who is catching your eye? You're Mr. Malvin. You're kind of our fashion expert on the show. So I would turn to you to start that one off. And you can't pick Cantlay because Cantlay obviously is number one, always and forever in the sweater game. And Dietrich would be second. It's a shame he's not here. But so taking Cantlay and Dietrich out of the equation, who'd you like from a sweater perspective?
Akshay Bhatia, for sure. Crispy blue hoodie, like he wears a lot. Had the hood in the back, little pockets in the front. I don't know exactly what brand it is, but I kind of want to get my.
It's what's the one? Grayson?
Oh yes, Grayson. Yes.
Yeah, he looked good. It's not flashy. It's just the standard Adidas gear. But Colin looked pretty nice in his sweater today. He looks nice. And then there was this other kid. There's a deeply international field here, and we'll get to the Viking Cup because we can report to the regular listeners that we've discovered some new Danish and Swedish talent this week, which is exciting for us. But there was this kid from Spain, potential new Sergio, potential new John Rahm.
He's trying out for the Fireballs this week, I think.
Yeah, we've been scouting him for Fireballs. We'll be talking to
Torquay's got. I'm wearing a Torquay shirt. By the way, I should show the camera because I support all tours. This is my Torquay shirt.
I have to tell a story actually that has almost nothing to do with what we were talking about, but it has to do with Colin, and it doesn't have to do with his sweater, but it has to do with Fireballs. This is all going to come together.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we see Colin, and we always watch Colin a reasonable amount, and we always call him like the king of preparation. He's the pros pro. Colin will always and forever be the pros pro. He's always taking it super seriously. He's always locked in. He tees off on the third hole. He's walking down the fairway, and he turns to like his caddy JJ, Kurt Kitayama, who he was playing with, and then he had like a coach, and there's a couple of people kind of milling around with him, and he starts talking about Abe Answer's club throw. And he's like, did you guys see the club throw? And then he reenacts it with like a wild fake like toss. And if you haven't seen the Abe Answer club throw, go look at the video. So he reenacts it. Next thing we know, Colin's got his phone out. He's showing everyone the video of Abe Answer. And Abe Answer is in the group behind him. Abe Answer is in the group behind him. He obviously couldn't hear what they were talking about, but that whole thing was one of the funnier things that I've seen.
And then in between that, Colin said to JJ, or JJ said to Colin, between that, did you see Bond's putt? Did you see Anna Brown's putt?
And then
just shitting on Liv like Colin would do.
Yeah, Colin's hard out on Liv, or at least we think he is. And then they started talking about Bond's putt. So that was like a little inside baseball Colin story there. But yeah, crispy sweater Colin. The kid from Spain had a crispy sweater. But overall, the sweater game across the board, I think, is strong for everyone. And I would factor that in a tiny bit.
Yeah, you have to.
You don't want a guy who's
we are yet to see Jason Day's weekly line drop. Like he could win the tournament tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever his clothing line drops. Just factor that into your models for sure.
And Hunter asked about Sungjae. Sungjae took the day off today, which I'll admit, I don't like that. Especially for a guy with a terrible major record. I'd want you to have boots on the ground as much as we do. But we almost played golf with Willie today. We didn't, but Willie also slung it around at Prestwick. So shout out to Willie getting over to Presty. But let's get to the holes. 1, 2, and 3 to me are all kind of the same. 1 and 2 very much the same. Those are going to be irons. Those are going to be wedges. Those are going to be birdie opportunities. 3 is interesting because there's this creek that runs through the fairway at about 260.
Yeah, I think it's about 260.
It's very small. It can't be more than 2 yards wide, but because of where it is, it would eat up your ball if you misplay your tee. If you get too aggressive, basically off the tee with a wood or a long iron.
Yep.
But because of that, theoretically, you could try to nuke it over the top of it, which
you have about a 8 to 15 yard landing area over the top with bunkers all around that and deep rough. And so virtually you will see very little people try to drive it over the little river on the little burn on number 3, because it gets you maybe a 80 yard shot instead of a 120 yard shot with infinitely more
basically, the risk reward makes no sense, because you could just play it safe and basically guarantee yourself a wedge to short iron into a reasonable green, or you could try to nuke it to give yourself even more wedge. Cheers. Who was the one player who earned unserious tag from us by trying to nuke it over? He pulled it off. I'll give it to him. It was a great shot, but
he bounced out of the rough.
Even trying it to me was senseless. Who was it?
Yeah, I mean, you guys could probably guess this. It was Wyndham Clark. He decided to try and bomb and gouge hole number 3 at Royal Troon, which if you miss, you have a 7 yard gap to land it in to get a, like I said, 80 yard wedge instead of a 110 yard wedge.
And we're big strokes gain preparation guys.
Yeah.
We just because you pulled it off,
unserious,
we're not going to give you credit for it because the decision by itself we didn't like. So, and also the big right miss is a problem here, and we can report that Windy was displaying the big.
We will talk about the right miss. We were mind blown by the right miss. Fun facts later after the hole by hole.
Yeah, we got a fun fact on this.
This is big.
It's actually probably one of the best boots facts that we've ever come up with.
Yes.
4, 5. Again, you got to drive it down the middle. This is my first, and maybe one of the only. I've got 2 actually blacklistable offenses. If your player does this, you blacklist them. You never bet them again. You unfavorite them from the app. You delete them entirely.
Left bunker.
Left bunker on 4. You get to chip out. It turns the par 5 into you're scrambling for par because you cannot advance the ball, so you're gonna have to chip it out sideways, and now you're gonna have still 220 in for your
Even
third,
more.
probably even more. And the right rough on this hole actually isn't bad. We saw multiple caddies. We saw Brooks Koepka's caddy. Say, Brooks, come over here.
Yeah.
To the right side of the 4th hole, and he pointed at it and he said, "If you're gonna miss right here, like you're good because we can at least advance it up, to wedge distance into the green." And then he walked him over. He pointed at the bunker and he said, "Do not hit it over there." So if Brooks Koepka, 5-time major champions caddy, is telling him that, we can tell you blacklist your player if he does it this week.
Yeah, it's one of the few spots that you can somewhat advance the ball if you're not in the fairway, and it's not like you're not going to be able to get to the green from there, but you're going to be able to hit it maybe 200 yards just down the fairway to have 100 more yards in. And fun fact about the rough, we heard Akshay's caddy talking, like he was just walking. This was yesterday. He was walking through the rough, seeing like all the wispy stuff. He was like, "You can't hit more than an 8 or 9 iron out of this." Like he was like shocked, and that just proved our point because Adam and I were walking up it. We were like, "This stuff is absurd," and Akshay is one of the stronger and more more power.
I always thought Akshay's really good out of the rough. Actually,
and he's good. So like, if he's not, if him and his caddy are saying that he can't advance anything more than a 9 or 8 iron out of this, then that just goes to show how penal this stuff is. But that's 5.
That's 4. Yeah, par 5. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4, all birdie opportunities if you're ball striking it. You could birdie any of those holes if you're hitting the ball well for sure. 5 starts the like I said, 3 of the par 3s are really tough, all over 200 yards. This one's right on the water too, so super exposed to
this is the most exposed water hole on the course
for sure. We did see a absolute flush shot by Tony Finau, and actually we'll pause here because you tweeted out
Tony Finau injury report.
You've got a Tony Finau injury report. We will say he was flushing the ball.
Looked great.
I saw nothing materially impacting his game, but we do have to report the tape on the neck. He was fiddling with it a fair amount. It wasn't just if it was just the tape on the neck, that's one thing. But I didn't like he was kind of reaching at it. He was messing with it a little bit. I'm not worried about it. I personally am not assessing it in my handicapping whatsoever. Yeah. But
just makes you think.
Our job at Boots on the Ground to tell people what we're seeing, and we did see that today.
Makes you think. He didn't play the Scottish Open, and now he's back at the Open with some tape on his neck, like some KT tape that you see like athletes wear all the time. And he was like reaching for it a little bit, but he striping the golf ball looked like vintage Tone.
And we liked it. I think Tone makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. So,
this week on this type of course, but again,
there's something to monitor.
There's no injury reports in golf, but I would put him probable. Obviously he's going to play the tournament, but like,
you never know.
I guess you never know. But if you were comparing this to like a football injury report, he's going to play. But in other sports, they would tell you he's at least dinged up. He's a little nicked. So that's all we're saying here. 5's a par 3. 6 is the next par 5, very similar to 4, where it's longer. This is the longest hole on the course for sure.
600.
Yeah. Got to nuke it down the middle if you want to get there in 2. And this is the hole where if you do want to get there in 2, that's somebody said Scotty had neck tape and won the tournament. Well, Scotty's also a sensational golfer. And that's infinity more dog than Tony Finau, but I do hear you. That's a fair take, and we literally just said that we
fact or fiction, like Scotty did do that. Yeah.
6 is where if you go to attack the green with let's say your 250 out, you go to
also that time Scotty's caddy said he does not think he's gonna play.
Fair. Nuke 3-wood, you go for the green. If you if you flare it right by 10 yards, which is not an uncommon thing for a right-handed golfer to do,
with a 3-wood,
to nuke their 3-wood, your ball is into the gorse, and you are hitting your ball again from 250.
Maybe add 5 more yards to that. If you nuke it 15 yards right, you're out of bounds over the
ocean.
Into the ocean.
Into the ire.
Into the ire. Yes, into the ire. So this wall that guards the right side of the inbounds marker on 6 green is, I would say, 30 feet high, and the green is probably it's one of the higher walls I would ever see.
It like once you get to the green,
TV will not do it justice.
Yeah,
once you get to the green, you're looking at the green directly across from left to right. The right side that guards the right side is 30 feet high. So I guess it protects balls from maybe going OB right. But
You'd probably lose it
you probably
because it's
lose
going
it
to go
because
into
it's
the
like
gorse.
it's like a gorsey bush that it wouldn't really bounce off or ricochet off.
Yeah, but very much the TV won't do it justice.
TV will not do-
Situation.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a boots on the ground special when they always on the broadcast do. The TV is not doing this justice. This is a true example that it will not be doing it justice. 7's an interesting one. We think with the right wind, you might be able to drive the green on the 7th. It's a risky play. You'd have to take on a bold line, but 7 is one of the few, maybe the only hole that I can think of on the course where the risk reward might make sense to do something super aggressive from the tee. But with that being said, the carry, it's downhill, and if you were going to do it, it would be downwind. Every player could do it. This isn't just only the Bombers could try this. You could try to nuke 7. The safer play is just hit an iron, and then again, you're going to have a short iron or wedge. And if you're listening to this point, you're thinking, wow, it sounds like a lot of birdie opportunities in these first 6, 7 holes.
Buckle up. You're right.
The
birdies will be had on the front 9. The birdies will be had 1 through 7.
And then we get to 8, the postage. Like I said, a fun hole. It's obviously famous for a reason. I was imagining like you get up there, you need like a magnifying glass to see the postage stamp. A little bit bigger than that, but we can totally see how, based on different pins and different winds, because that's usually going to play directly into that wind, that it's another perfect example of the ball striking differentiation.
Yeah.
If you hit the green on the postage, your average score will probably be like, I don't know, 2.75 or something like that.
I would say maybe even like the winning score averages 12 on this hole.
Yeah. But if you hit the green, you can't bogey, basically.
Right.
Like, and you're going to have a reasonable birdie look. So that's why I think like someone who hits the green on average will be like slightly below across the field. If you miss the green, you're going to average 3.5 or probably more than that. And so it's almost a full stroke difference. This is guessing. We've only seen a handful of players play the postage. We haven't spent as much time around the postage in the first couple of rounds or first couple of days. But it's just a perfect example of if you hit the green, you've eliminated a lot of the trouble. And if you miss the green, you're going to be a stroke difference on that hole. And so, again, over 4 rounds, those guys who are ball striking it better, the guys who have the GIR percentage and on the postage specifically, just a good example. And I think that rings true on a probably not like because this is one of the few holes where the around the green situation.
Yeah, this one's tough. Like this, they have to trick it up for a reason. It's a 120-yard hole, and like Adam said to start the pot, it's not as small of a green as you would think, but the edges are definitely the most rounded edges of any green, I would say, and they're gonna try to tuck pins to mess with you and try to go at it because if you miss a tuck pin in any direction, you're probably off the green, and then they have a bunker called the coffin, and then 2 deep bunkers front, and then 1 back right that are all going to be virtually impossible to get up and down. So the smart players will hit to 1 number all 4 days, just middle of the green, whatever happens, happens.
What is your take in general about the naming of the bunkers? We've seen that at a variety of different courses. It's a nice touch. I wish we named some more bunkers.
Yeah, name everything. Every hole has a name at
Prestwick. West Kills. Every hole had a name too.
Name more holes, golf, just in general.
Yeah,
they don't have to mean anything.
It's also not too late to go back and name some holes that already exist. Like if you're building a new course, let's name every hole. Let's go back and name some more holes.
I'm going to start naming the holes at my local courses.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
Someone has to do it.
Yeah. So just kick that off. If you're going to your local course this week, start naming the holes. Get the open vibes going. 9. This is our second blacklistable offense of the week. The only play on 9 is a layup. There's bunkers on the left. There's 2 deep bunkers, which you would not be able to get to the green to. And then on the right, at the exact same starting distance as the bunkers on the left, is what I call the lost ball gorse. We've talked about it on a few different holes. Your ball goes into the gorse. It's probably lost. It's basically out of bounds. So, and then where you would actually land it between those 2 things or over them is tiny, minuscule. If your player hits it in the left bunkers on 9 or loses their ball in the gorse, this is actually a worse offense by far than 4. This is you never bet them ever again.
Yeah, because it's like if they were trying to do that, they'd be hitting too much club, and there's no risk reward there. They'd be trying to land it in a small area, lay back in front of all of the bunkers on number 9, and have your middle to long iron in because it's just, or not even a long iron, probably a middle iron in because it's not that long of a hole. It's a dogleg right par 4 with a bunker, penal bunker on the right, 3 penal bunkers up the left, and then gorse all the way up the right. If you're in the right rough on 9, you're trying to do too much, unstar 'em on your app.
10. So this is where it turns. So the front
This
nine.
is where it turns first. Torrey Pines.
What do you think? What do you think will be the lowest front nine score of the week? Like, how many under do you think the best front nine score is this week? And maybe take a stab at what you think the average front nine score is.
I think we can see. There is a world for a 5.
I was going to say 6.
Okay, there is a world for a 5.
I think you could get an eagle. I think you could grab 2 out of the first 3. You eagle 4. That's 4. You get the other par 5, and then you snag 7 or something like that. I think somebody gets 600 on the front.
We've actually been having conversations about golfers all week, obviously, when we've been here. And we're like, oh, this guy looks good. He makes sense too. But like, oh, he's only a front 9 guy. This guy makes sense. Oh, no, he's a back 9 guy. Let's like truly Torrey Pines and TPC Sawgrass.
Opposite. We were talking about Russ Henley earlier. Russ Henley's a front 9 guy.
If Russ Henley can only play the front 9, if you can, like on Underdog Fantasy, you can find front and back 9 props. And I'm sure you can on Prize Picks too. DM me. I'm going to exploit those this week. So there is a true market for front and back 9 props because there are 2 different golf courses.
Entirely 2 different golf courses. So we get to 10, the most blind shot besides the par 3 4th at Prestwick. 10 at Troon this week is the most blind tee shot ever. Like you stand on the tee and there's a hill in front of you covered in gorse, maybe, I don't know, 100 yards in front of you. And it is, I don't know how tall, but it's 10 times taller than a person. So whatever that is, let's say 50, 60 feet tall. Like you cannot see anything. Completely blind. And this is where like we've heard guys, not this week, but like have spoken. Brooks is an example of a guy who always hates blind shots.
Yeah.
He's like, I fucking hate blind shots. Now Brooks has been striping this week. He's also the putter's a liability. And this is a public service announcement to Brooks, one of my favorite golfers, a guy that I want to.
He's probably listening, so this is big.
Maybe listening. Brooks, I think I could fix Brooks putting. I think I saw something today that if he tapped me on the shoulder, he is back with the blade putter. If you're wondering about Brooks, he did have the blade out today. I think I saw something. I've been putting it pretty well this week. I think I might be able to give Brooks a little tip, and then I would bet him at 30, 40 to 1 or whatever, and it would be probably the greatest moment of my entire life. So
I think he's 60 to 1 in the UK books.
Yeah.
We could tout those.
That's another thing, and I know we go on tangents on this pod, but it's just because the things pop into our head when we're bootsing. But we may be moving to the UK so we can bet on Betfair.
Betfair's prices are absurd, and the food in Largs is so damn cheap.
Yeah, like the deals here are amazing. Obviously, coming from New York City, where it's a night and day difference on the prices, both from the sports books and the things you're actually purchasing.
We were
walking around today. Shout out to Dave, our boy. One of the subscribers had boots. We walked the whole course for the most part today with one of the subs. Awesome guy from South Africa. Really enjoyed hanging out with him. It's always fun meeting the subs. I swear, almost every course we go to now, every tournament we go to, we meet somebody who's subbed to the side or listens to the pod, which is really awesome. Makes it super fun. This was something that I kicked off a couple of years ago with nothing, no followers or anything like that. Now we'll go to a golf course halfway across the not halfway across the world, but like across the P, and we'll hang out with guys solely through this like community experience. It's super awesome. That's a tangent, but he kept opening up the exchange odds, and it was insane. It was like, what are we even doing betting on DraftKings and FanDuel when we could be betting these odds? Because Brooks was like 60 to 1. There was some insane.
Vic was like 40 and 45. So those prices were just nuts. And shout out Dave. He was a true Vinceric subscriber. Like we say, we are a show and a podcast and a content creation for ball knowers. This man knew a lot what he was talking about. And it's super fun. And it's like it proves that there's just so many people out there who share a hobby, basically, an experience with everybody else who's listening to this and everybody else. And that's why we love the Discord. Get in the Discord, get signed up, and interact with these people. Fixing Brooks' putter.
And fixing Brooks' putter. And so 10 is a blind tee shot, the blindest. And that's why it starts to get weird on the back.
You didn't tell him how you can fix the putter. You didn't say how.
Well, he's got to if I could win Brooks.
Oh, you're not telling the people.
I'm not going to tell Brooks how to win the Open.
Oh, okay.
He's going to have to pay for that.
He's
going to have to pay for that level of information.
Yeah. We'll tell the Discord how Brooks will fix his putter.
Yeah. Okay. So 10, and if Brooks fixes his putter, he's winning this golf tournament. He could win. He would win by like 5-10 shots. If he just got toasty hot on the first round and all of a sudden he's making putts again, Brooks will pick up his first Open. This is going to be one of his best chances because of the ball striking threshold to pick up the Open. And I will say, we were talking about this earlier, we like guys, or at least I do, who are major champions but haven't won the Open because they need to add the Open to their, Rom is another guy we like this week. That's it's only a semi-serious take, but I think it's kind of true. Like Brooks just looks extra focused this week. Like, what does winning another PGA, winning another US Open do for Brooks?
Yeah, Brooks
It might have
continues to put in the hole, and looked about. He hit the ball as well as anyone out there today. And I am a noted Brooks
This is
anti.
I will say
guy.
this is the highest you've ever spoken of Brooks in my entire life being around you. Usually, like, you're like, man, Brooks, because I always like Brooks. You're actually on board with thinking he looks pretty good this week, and then the course kind of makes sense. But back to the 10th, crazy blind drive. Brooks will hate this hole. He'll also hate the next hole. This is where he it may not be a Brooks week, but 10 is blind tee shot. Actually, one of the easier drives, but you have to rip driver. This is where it's time to start ripping driver. You rip driver on 10, get in the fairway. You're gonna have a short mid iron. I think it'll be a reasonably easy hole, but guys who don't like the visual intimidation
could easily miss it.
Will despise the 10th hole. And then we get to 11, the toughest hole maybe in the history of golf. I can't think of a harder hole, honestly.
It's just very narrow, blind tee shot, penalties lurking quick on both sides.
It's basically a hole that is
and the second shot too.
500-yard hole, blind tee shot again, like semi-blind, not as blind as 10. OB right with the gorse left. It's effectively OB on both sides of the fairway from tee to green on a 500-yard hole.
Yeah.
That's
as simple as that. It's virtually like a 500-yard hole that you don't know where you're driving it with water on both sides. And it's
even worse because at least if it was water, you'd be able to just drop where it went into the water. This is you're going to have to head back to the tee and rip it again. So, like, you could hit it OB multiple times. Your OB risk off the tee, OB risk on the second. 11 is going to be a brute of a golf hole. If you want to win I would honestly, you could win if you played the 11th, it like +2.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 over. Yeah,
that would be fine.
I mean, Jack Nicklaus just doesn't go around making 10s, so that should tell you about 11.
12. I'm going to quickly go through 12, 13.
Yeah,
they're kind of the same. Again, driver holes, gorse right, deep rough left. You need to step up and rip it down the fairway on these holes. If you do that, they're going to be birdie opportunities. They're going to give you a chance on approach.
They're not like wedge birdie opportunities, but they're like, okay, you have a mid iron in, let's hit a good shot.
Yep. 14, long par 3 again. We watched, there was a great group today. Probably one of the best P round groups that you can come up with when you want to go do boots and understand how the course is playing and understand who looks good. It was Scotty. It was Xander. It was Pat Cantlay. And it was Sammy Burns out there. And on 14, 3 out of the 4 of them missed the green. That speaks to how tough the 14th hole is. Scotty in the bunker, Cantlay in the bunker, Xander long left, and Sam Burns. I have long been the Sam Burns whisperer. I've watched many practice rounds from the great Sammy B. This is hands down the best Sam Burns has ever looked in a practice round. I've never seen him hit the fairway in a practice round. He was nuking it down the middle. Rumors are he's 120 to 1 to win the golf tournament. Most of the bets, everything like that's going to be up on the site. Jers, I'll declare right now, Sam Burns is going to be on the card at 121. The site would be shut down, the pod would be deleted, and I would never watch golf again if I saw what I saw from Sam Burns today and I didn't bet him at 120 to 1 coming off his best ever major finish.
Yeah, I've been high on Sam Burns last major. Came into the week kind of high on him because I liked how he was driving the ball. And what we saw today kind of confirmed it. He looked confident. He looked solid over the tee shots. And I mean, this is not a golf course where you would think Sam Burns would really rip driver and hit it well because it's just so narrow. And knowing Sam Burns, he has that wide shot more often than he probably wants to. But I mean, this is just what we saw. He looked really confident and good over the driver. If he could parlay that confidence into the Thursday and Friday.
And he's one of those guys where we said it's going to be a putting contest between the ball strikers. If Sam can qualify for the putting contest, who else would you really want on these greens?
I want Taylor Montgomery.
Taylor Montgomery should not be allowed to play on the PGA Tour. 15, another... I'm blanking. What is the 15th hole? I've lost it.
The 15th hole is a par 4.
Oh, it's like 12 and 13. Yeah. Another step up rip driver. You got trouble on each side. The thing about the back,
this one JT was in the bunker somehow on the downslope of the bunker.
Yeah. So the thing about the back 9 is 11's like the most impossible hole ever. 10, 12, 13, and 15 are all true driving tests. These are the Torrey Pines examples where if you drive it long and straight down the middle, you're going to have an opportunity to attack because the greens aren't that difficult, but you're going to have guys who miss 2 of those fairways, who missed 3 of those.
And
fairways,
they're playing those +4, yeah.
And so there's those guys who they're going to go out in 3 under on the front, and they're going to have given it all back by the time they get to
the Sawgrass guys, the Tom Hoagies, the Russell, like one of those guys that you see, like that you want to bet at 60 to 1 at Sawgrass or 25 to 1 at the JDC. One of those guys will get off to a great start if they play the front 9 first, and then come to those Torrey Pines holes where you're missing slightly with the driver just because it's a long and demanding tee shot. They're not impossible holes, but it's Torrey Pines. It's a long and demanding tee shot with a mid to long iron in.
Yep,
straightforward as that.
16 is a par 5, a weird one. It's right at 300 yards. There's the same ravine or creek that went through the 3rd hole. Yeah. Now comes through the 16th hole, and you can't hit it over it. Every player has to lay up short. It effectively becomes a drivable par 4, I think would be a good way to think about it, because every player has to they all have to lay up short. Some players hit driver like easily, like you swing a super easy driver, or you hit 3-wood. And so you basically are going to have 260 to like 290 into 16, and every guy's going to be in the same spot. And then it becomes who can,
and there's a quick left to the green. If you pull it left, you're OB. You have some room right. There's some you have more. Everyone will bail out right of 16 if they're going forward in 2. Not many people are going to go left. We did see Xander hit 3-wood onto this green, probably 20 feet, which is probably one of the only guys, because it just proves to how long.
Yeah, I mean, Xander's one of the. I said at Travelers that it was the greatest 3-wood I've ever hit. If Xander's going 3-wood and barely getting into the front of the green, this is not going to necessarily be one where
Scotty went driver 3-wood and he was 20 yards short.
Scotty is he may not be a bomber anymore. Like, he never was a bomber, but I know people they're always going to wonder about Scotty. And we'll get hold Scotty for just a second. 17, impossible par 3, probably one of the hardest par 3s on the major calendar this year. 230
outside of, unless your name's Adam Shank, you're fine.
Yeah, Adam Shank, brilliant golf shot. Shout out to Shank, kind of our guy. You met him at the gas station. 17 impossible par 3. If you make par on 17 down the stretch, you will pay good money for that. And then 18, pretty tame finishing hole. If you get to 18, then if you've gotten through the back 9, you will take a deep breath that you got to 18, because it's really not that hard of a hole. We've had a reasonable amount of questions about the 18. The OB off the back of the 18th green. Basically 5 yards off the back of the 18th green is the clubhouse, and then in front of the clubhouse is like a rocky path.
And it's concrete.
Path, but there's not a lot of courses that have carts here, which we've.
It's like 3 to 5 yards. There's a house. It's like as simple as that, off the back of the 18th green.
And then between the back of the green and that rock path is a maybe like 1 foot tall like grass curve or a little hill. People are asking like, guys, what's the deal with the OB? Like, is that something to factor in? In my opinion, I would be stunned if anyone in any meaningful situation even comes within a million miles of going OB off of the back of the 18th. Last year at Royal Liverpool, all the talk was about that out of bounds that was down the entire right side at Royal Liverpool, all the way up into the green. That was in play. We saw lots of guys go out of bounds there, but that's because the wind was off of the left on that hole consistently, and you had to hit driver. You had to, if you wanted to tackle the green, you had
big one.
You had to hit golf shots with that on their side. No player, these guys are the thing that they may be best at of any skill is distance control.
Right.
And just knowing that if I go long or short in certain situations that I cannot do that.
And it's a mid-iron to a mid-iron to a short iron. It's not like a 220-yard approach. It's going to be a straightforward iron shot, especially if in the fairway. No one's going to launch it long, and even if the pin's tucked away in the back, everyone's going to play 20 to 30 feet short.
Yeah, I would say if your guy goes OB long,
you shouldn't have bet him anyway.
It would be worse than what I talked about on 9 times like a million. It'd be one of the worst things probably that's ever happened. Would it be worse than Rico Hoey going into the water on 18?
No, it was big. It was the ISCO was baked, so it's all good. It would not be worse.
And yeah, I mean, we've made it also an hour in. I think it's fair that we quickly feel sorry for ourselves that you had Ludd yesterday, who took the final round lead into the Scottish and did not win. I had Pearson Coods, who led the entire tournament at the Baked Disco.
Both needed to shoot 1 under.
Yeah, and if I was going to complain, if I was going to feel sorry for myself, I would say that I've had Tom leading from gate to wire at the Travelers and not win. I had Akshay, who led the entire tournament at Rocket and not win. And I had Pearson Coods at ISCO, but we're not going to do that. That's not what we're
Fake
here.
ISCO.
But we did quickly have to feel sorry for ourselves there. But that's the 18 holes. What do you think maybe not the best score on the back is, but let's say now let's do the total. Let's like combine, obviously, the nines. So we've got two different nines. We think you could maybe on average shoot a couple under on the front if you're really playing it well. I would love a guy to shoot 3 under on the front, even par on the back.
I was going to say a great score is
days.
3 under. I was going to say winning score 12 to 14.
Yeah, and historically the winners here have been 12 under. We saw a couple, or in 2016 when Phil and Henrik like hit 20 under, but the next closest guy was at 6 under. I still want to see the weather forecast get dialed in before I make my official score prediction, which will be up on the side. And I haven't heard what the Vegas over under are yet.
Yeah,
we were able
that.
Drop it in the chat. We know at Valhalla, for example, we were able to make a good amount of money by hammering is it the over? That you go lower under par or under? It's fewer strokes, so you go under there. Want to see what it is here, but if I had to guess, I would agree with you in the 12 to 14 range right now. But I think it could be one of those because, again, the importance of the ball striking, where we get a few guys who are maybe 12, 11, and 10, and then it's like 6, 4, 3, and a bunch of guys over par. Because there's going to be guys who over the weekend at this course, and we see this happen a reasonable amount of times, where it's like they can't win and they're tired of getting fucked by the rough, and they just kind of they maybe listen to the pod. I will say the Circa guy does follow. He does listen to the pod. So actually, we were lying. We think it's going to be like 27 under par. Winning score 27 under. Birdie fest. They're going to birdie every single hole.
Well,
make it as low.
They set the line for Valhalla, I think, 12 and a half?
Yeah.
And we said it would be 20. And it was 23?
So if you're listening, if you're the line setter, one of the easiest courses ever, unbelievably easy. Every guy's going to be a putting contest like 30, 50, maybe a record scoring.
Yeah, look, think the Kapalua.
So that's the course. Those are the keys. I think it took us an hour to get through all of them, but I think if you've listened, I would hope that you feel good about understanding how this course is going to play. Obviously, and we always say this, it's Monday. It's going to be different tomorrow. It's going to be different on Wednesday. But the course will change throughout the week. Some of these things will change. Somehow the way the holes will play with the wind. But in general, I just feel really good about the ball striking angle this week. I feel good about guys who maybe struggle around the greens not being as big of a liability. Guys who can make putts amongst the ball strikers. And when I talk about a guy who would take advantage of that situation, I bet there's a lot of people listening in who have this name. Who's a ball striker who sucks around the greens? Matt Gannon, who's played good at the Open Championship.
Ball striker that sucked around the greens, that's played good around at the Open Championship. Victor Hovland. That is Victor Hovland.
That is the man. And we'll say, so let's talk.
Victor Hovland for a second. I was thinking.
I couldn't tell if you were joking or
no, actually,
because we spent so much time talking about it today, but most of it, we're not going to talk about all the players because again, that stuff's on the site. There's probably 30 to 40 players today that we saw up on the site, and tomorrow there wasn't as many guys practicing today. There's the Scottish, obviously, Valderrama guys have to travel across, to get here. Tomorrow's going to be a huge day.
It's $10. You will get a lot.
You could go on the site right now and get easily $10 worth, but we'll pick a few guys and kind of tell the stories that'll also be up on the site. But Victor Hovland, it feels to me like this is the culmination of a story that we have been following since the Players' Championship.
A full year's forthcoming of Victor Hovland. If you followed Adam and I since March, we both posted a ton of videos of Victor Hovland on the back range of TPC Sawgrass when everyone else is practicing, and Adam and I are on the course. Where the hell is Vic? Because we liked him. Everyone liked Victor heading into the Players. Where is Vic? And as we leave, we see Victor Hovland in grind mode is an understatement. It wasn't Joe Mayo then. It was his other coach, and grind mode, just going through the fields, going through just being the crazy Victor Hovland that he was. Like he's learning how to golf again. Yeah. And then we see him.
Well, we weren't there, but we see the videos at the Masters. I'm watching live from the Masters, and I see Victor Hovland doing air practice swings, while Joe Mayo films him and then watching on his phone fake swings. So that kicks off the Joe Mayo experience. Then we get to the PGA where And I would say the PGA and Pine, we didn't see him much at the PGA. We saw him very briefly at the PGA because he wasn't playing the course at all. And then we saw him you never want to see guys who tee off at, the last group off on Wednesday. We saw Vic, so we were kind of out on him at the PGA because we were like, he's not dialed in. He obviously played really good at the PGA that week. And so then going into Pine, we were like, Vic might be back. Let's definitely give him a look here. Obviously, his odds had risen so much at the PGA, and then they had dived down again at Pinehurst, and people were like, Vic is back. This is going to be great. And I think I was a little on edge because we were so wrong about him at the PGA, or we were kind of out on him on the PGA, that I was hoping that he would look good so that we wouldn't give out the take that he looks bad. Because as always, we tell you what we see. And even if we were wrong before, I'm not going to give you a fake take on a guy. I'm going to tell you what I saw the next time. Him and Joe Mayo were never farther than a foot apart.
At Pinehurst, they may have slept in the same bed. We don't know yet.
We watch all these guys. There's no player walks step by step in a full animated, hands waving, metaphysical conversation with their coach for usually ever, let alone every step of the entire practice round, all 3 days. It was so mind blowing, something I've never seen. These guys were. It doesn't even make sense to describe. They were. To your point, they're probably sleeping in the same bed. They were so deep in the process.
All Pinehurst,
and then obviously Vic didn't play that good that week
because we had to get high hopes, and we're like, how are we going to trust this player who is just absolutely in his own head? And
how are you going to go beat Scotty Scheffler or Rory or Bryson when days before, up until the minute the tournament starts, you are literally discovering what golf is and what the meaning of the universe is with Joe Mayo. So
now we're at Troon.
Yeah, so we see that at Pine, and we're like, this is fucked. What is going on here? This is so weird. We can't back this guy or tout him in any way, shape, or form. And so we talked about it this week because yesterday we had boots yesterday. Not many guys playing. We kind of walked the course. We saw some of the lower level players play. We really familiarized ourselves with the layout. What did we say?
We said at the core, this makes sense for Vic. This course makes sense for Vic.
We were excited. Let's go look for Vic. And we find Vic today. We see him, and who do we see? We see him actually in the distance because I see the Jay Lindbergh.
And I was like, that's not Vic.
The sweater. And I go, that's Vic. And you're like, that's not Vic. And I go, that's Vic. That's the Jay Lindbergh. And then we see Joe Mayo, and we go, that's 100% Vic. Yep. And they're pretty close at that moment. And I'm thinking, oh boy. Here we go again. Vic's still, in the metaphysical, figuring out everything that matters.
Because the golf hasn't been great since the Pinehurst.
He's been struggling a little bit. He nukes it down the middle on the par 5-6. He's in the fairway. And now I'm expecting, again, they're going to walk off the tee, arm in arm, talking about their ear off to the ball. No. Mayo tries to talk to him. Vic confidently walking down the fairway by himself. And so we're like, okay, there's something going on here. Yeah. I like what we're seeing here. But again, I'm thinking they're going to get to his ball and they're going to get right back into the same thing.
Yep.
But they don't. Joe Mayo kind of talk to Vic. And Vic is consciously avoiding Joe Mayo.
Yeah.
It almost was a little weird. Joe Mayo was trying to continue this experience that we had been seeing. But Vic clearly,
he's like, I feel good.
He looked so confident. And he was like, don't fucking talk to me.
Yeah,
I'm trying to strike.
I feel good. And then
we described it as a graduation. I thought of it as your parents drop you off at college and they're trying to tell you the last minute pieces of advice. They're like, no, I'm good. I'm going to go hang out with my friends and whatever. Vic steps up and laser beams a 3-wood from 270 to the front edge. Absolute nuke.
Yeah, the longest hole in the course. Absolute rips it. And Joe Mayo gets behind him and films it, which me and Adam are like, oh, why is he filming this? He looks good. And then Vic, if you watch a lot of golf, when Vic hits a good one, he hits it and he lashes back and he stares at it. He did that little Vic lash, and I was like, okay, he likes it. Great shot. So if Mayo's filming this shot, and then after Vic puts his club back, Mayo's like, okay, look at the phone, and Vic's like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
I feel great.
Mayo's trying to show him the video really aggressively, and Vic literally turns, dips out, walks 15 yards down the fairway. Mayo turns to Shea, Vic's caddy, what the fuck? And Shea's caddy kind of gives him the yeah, you need to back off. This is now becoming into kind of a joking take, but it's almost time for Vic, in my opinion, based on what I saw today, and who knows, Vic could shoot 90 out there, and maybe he's not as close as we think he is. It's almost time for him to fire Joe Mayo again, and we could see
why he fired Joe Mayo.
Yeah,
it all makes sense.
Fired Joe Mayo in the first place because the guy is over the top.
And it's connecting circles because we heard from a source in the past that Joe Mayo was a little bonkers and like too much in different aspects of life, and we're all seeing it firsthand because for the past few events we thought like, okay, maybe Victor is just crazy, like maybe Victor is like,
I still think he is
Victor's
crazy.
a little crazy too, like maybe he's just like in his own head about the golf swing, which he is, and then we see all this, and what we see today, Victor's absolutely striping the golf ball, and Joe Mayo is still trying to be in his pocket, like do this, and like fix different hand positions here. And Vic's like, I'm playing good. My ball striking numbers are they're trending in the best direction they have all season.
It's time. It's time for Vic to fly. It's time for him to leave the nest. He's been nurtured. He needed serious nurture because he was gone off the rails, deep down off the rails. Obviously, there was the articles about him, and like people who knew him were saying he's like despondent because of how far his game had fallen versus his peak last year. What I saw, and we'll again, we're gonna go get eyes on him again tomorrow because maybe this was just the what we saw today, and we'll obviously put this on the site. But he looked so good. He's leaving the nest for the first time this year. I'm going to give him a serious look. And I think the price, what is about 30, we're seeing 30s out there.
Around 30, yeah.
I saw some 35. He got to 50. He fell back down to 20. He's gone now to 35. The open history speaks for itself. This is a ball striking open. Like the way he was striking it last year at a place like Oak Hill and things like that. Obviously, Memorial to me is one of my favorite comps actually.
Olympia Fields.
Because of Olympia Fields, like all the places that have high missed fairway penalties, Vic fucks at. And so I'm not committing to betting Vic. The only guy I'm committing to betting right now is Sam Burns. But that's the type of stuff that we're seeing there. And I thought of all the things that we saw today, that was my favorite just because it wrapped up like a year's worth of boots, stuff that you only see when your boots on.
Yeah, you are not going to find that anywhere else.
That's what for the last few years, being a big fan of golf, those are the stories I want to hear. But why do you don't hear those stories? Because there's not a single other media person on the course. And so like that type of stuff. And that's why like go to practice rounds. Dave was there today. I'm sure he would say that he loved the practice rounds, that he got to see stuff that you would never see, you'd never hear about. Like, and then you go to a few of them like we get to go to, and you start to build like these understanding of players.
Let's talk about like real quick, like Colin at Sawgrass. We saw Colin at Sawgrass this was 5:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night, playing alone, walking around with his caddy. Everyone's off the golf course. Colin is absolutely lost. This is when Colin was playing horrible golf, screaming with his coach, like ear to ear with his coach, like, I'm not doing this. Look, lost as hell. And he's another guy that everyone considered at Sawgrass, and we did too going into the week. And then we saw him, we're like, this guy looks like he's lost. And then he did not play great. Did not play good. And then now we see Colin looking confident in his practice rounds, looking like I'm here to play. I'm here to win.
It's night and day difference.
Night and day. And you can only see this from going to all of these.
Yeah. And somebody said Vic has only played going to a good event all year. That's the point. We're saying we know that information. This is the stuff this is like what we're trying to see from being there. So again, I'm not sure that I'm going to bet Vic, because what I will say is once Vic got around the greens,
didn't look great. It looked like Victor around the greens.
He looked like Victor around the greens, but if over the course of 72 holes, he's just flushing so much, the differentiation that he can have from ball striking can get him into the mix. So you haven't been high on Brooks all of year, and you were saying you kind of like Brooks. I haven't been high on Vic
either
in any tournament, and I kind of like him here this week. And let's give the people who we had as our number one power rankings today. We put it together, a power ranking of the guys we saw, and it was a man from Spain.
Yeah. John Rahm.
Number one, we'll leave it at that. We won't dive into necessarily.
Well, we gave him enough around John Rahm. The around the green stuff was crazy.
Yeah, but overall, John Rahm I think was the best. And we'll do one more guy. It has to be Scotty, because we've come on this pod the last few
and
majors,
gave our Scotty takes.
And everybody at the Pinehurst was like, they literally built. I think Scotty Scheffler himself designed Pinehurst. I'm pretty sure, like he was involved in the architecture of building Pinehurst. And we said it doesn't really seem like a Scotty course to us. He's not flushing in the practice rounds. We're out on Scotty. Yesterday, before we saw Scotty, we said, post the Vince Carter gift. Why even tee it up this week? This is the most Scotty Scheffler ball striking. He's going to win by 10 course that we've ever seen. You think of the comps. We talking about Sawgrass. We're talking about Memorial. We're talking about those type of places. That's Scotty Scheffler golf.
Positional bomber.
the Scotty Scheffler, the positional bomber. A lot of his wins have come on the positional courses this year. Yesterday, going into I was like, well, fuck. Scotty's going to win this tournament easily. This is the most Scotty course I've seen so far this year.
I still is the most Scotty course we've seen this year.
It's still the most Scotty course. Like, if everybody should be afraid of Scotty. Like
we've came on here and Valhalla and Pinehurst, and I'm cocky and like I will die on hills and I will get called out for it. I'm like, Scotty is not winning. Scotty has no chance. Adam is smarter than me and will never say that. But we both were on the same edge of saying Scotty is not going to play well here, not going to contend at Valhalla and Pinehurst because of the way the course set up for him. Here, live. I mean, hot take. Scotty's live.
Because I just think it's like you look at the stats at the previous majors this year. GIR percent hasn't been like the thing that will win you the tournament. Scotty, just the ball striking is so good, and his ability to never get into trouble.
Yeah,
off of it. I will, but so that was before we saw him. I didn't even I was like, we're gonna see Scotty's gonna hit every shot perfectly, and we're gonna be screwed, like we saw at Sawgrass. He didn't hit it. We didn't see anything of what he was doing that was better.
Warren a 5-1 bet.
Yeah, that was better than Xander, or that was better than even Sam Burns, or even Cantlay. Sometimes, yes, purely based on what we know about Scotty and what we know about this course, he's going to be very tough to beat. But I was yesterday thinking of how am I going to figure out a way to bet Scotty or dual forecast or that types of bets. At least we aren't coming on here saying we saw Scotty hit every shot perfectly and he's clearly striping it better than anyone else on the course. And because of that take, we were talking about this earlier, even though there's this really high ball striking threshold that we've talked about, where do you kind of draw the line of? Obviously, the majors this year have been won by Scotty, who was the favorite at the Masters, a big favorite, but not even as much of a favorite as he is this weekend. Definitely not as much of a favorite as he was at Pinehurst. This is obviously a better price, in my opinion, than it was at Pinehurst.
Similar to Masters, right?
Yeah, it's similar to Masters. This is a way better price on Scotty than I would say at Valhalla or Pinehurst. Xander went at Valhalla at a reasonably low price. Well, you
third favorite, yeah,
third favorite, and then Bryson was maybe fifth or sixth favorite, still in the 20s. Do you think only the top of the, let's say, I'm defining top of the board here as below 30-1, so guys in the 20s, the guys in, do you think there's no point of betting a big card with lots of guys, or do you think this is a course where a guy we haven't seen him, but he's a guy I've been calling it the summer links season for Corey Connors for the last couple of weeks, and he delivered for me at the Renaissance. Do you think a guy a little further down the board, the 50s, the 80s, maybe a guy like Fino, those type of guys who are ball strikers, they're the BSBs, will you be considering them for the card, or kind of what are you thinking based on what you've seen so far from that perspective?
Yeah, this can't be this is not going to be a Zach Johnson type year. This is going to be if you want to be a law
or Todd Hamilton. Shout out to Todd Hamilton. We saw Todd Hamilton today.
This is going a guy down the board can win, but it has to be a name, and we're just talking strictly numbers. Tony Finau is a name, obviously, but this is a major. He's going to be a big number. Guys that have that high upside ball striking prowess at 80-1, not versus like a JT Poston at 80-1 has no chance versus who's a name has elite ball striking upside at around that price. It's one of those guys. They can win.
Yeah, I would say the guys who would be that price are the team no putt guys. Yeah. They're the ball strikers who don't have the complete games, and that's why they're 80-1 in majors, or maybe they have a bad track record.
Like a Ben-On, legit.
Yeah, we didn't see much Ben-On, but you're kind of talking about. For the record, I think it might be over for Ben-On. I think he's peaked, but you're big on Ben-On. But those are the type of guys that I think if you are going to go down the board, it's going to be those ball strikers. It's going to be those, we call them the BSBs, the ball striking bastards, that we're going to have eyes on. You need my charger? Yeah. Hold on just a second. Vic's ball striking trend. Right. Okay. I'm gonna get in the chat now because people have been in the chat. Burns is 165 on Bet365. All right. I'm betting. I rescind my betting him at 120. I will be after this pod betting him at 165, assuming that Bet365 number is legit. And I have no reason to doubt Tricks superstar JJ that is the number. So yeah, Burns at 165. Maybe he could. Sam Burns could shoot 100 in both rounds, and I would still consider that one of the best values of any boots number that I've ever seen before. You can clip this and make fun of me when he plays terribly, but I'll just be honest with you. I think that's one of the most insane numbers that I've ever seen based on the fact that, and this is we always talk about this, but the best bets that I think you can get from Boots are when the Boots aligns with a trend of he just played his best major. He's starting to get a feel for it. He's been driving it more accurately recently than he has at any point, at least in the last few years. So you start to add those things together, and then he's 165 to 1. And it's like, again, it's like the Windy. When I didn't bet Windy, one of the dumbest things I've ever done when I saw with my eyes and the numbers, and he was 80 to 1. I'm not going to make that same mistake with Burns. We'll do fly quickly. If there's any more questions, like we're not gonna. You don't just say like, "How did so and so play?" Like we're done on talking through the guys for the most part. But if you do have any questions, feel free to fire those because I'm gonna look right now, and then we're gonna spend a few minutes. It's 12:15 a.m. I think I'm at 10 total hours of sleep since Friday. That's the commitment that we're given to Boots here in Scotland. But just seeing if there's questions. Did you have the haggis? We've not had the haggis. You probably don't even know what it is.
No.
We'll take the haggis conversation offline. This is my second time in Scotland. I've not had the haggis. And I will say this is here to Scotland take for people who may be considering coming to Scotland. I've been fortunate enough, and I always say like being able to do this, even who knows how long it continues, who knows, but like to be able to spend the last couple of years getting to do this stuff has been fucking amazing. And so thanks to everybody who tunes in, who subscribes to the site. There's been some people, who have been subscribed to the site for a long time, who have been really supportive of everything, and like to be able to support this type of stuff is amazing. I've worked, very normal, or I wouldn't say I've ever worked like normal jobs. I've worked in startups. I've always enjoyed what I've done, but to be able to like do this is obviously super fun. And so I've been to Scotland now a couple times. And I much prefer this west side of Scotland where we are, where there's Troon and Prestwick. We haven't even been down the coast to some of the other courses that are in this area. But the vibes on the west coast, I like more than the east coast, which is where like St. Andrews is and where Renaissance is like closer to Edinburgh. Come out to the west side. Come to Largs. Like
this is my only time I can't compare it to anything, but this is elite. I compared it to
like usually at the end of Boots, I'm tired. I'm ready to go home, and I am extraordinarily tired. And in some ways, I will look forward to getting to my bed. I would stay here for another couple of weeks. Like it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm comparing it to like Largs, Scotland, to a northeastern small fishing town with a really local downtown area.
Like obviously, like I live in New York City, and the cool thing to do is to go out to the Hamptons, to Montauk and shit like that. And everything's insanely expensive, and only the people there are not. No offense if there's like Montauk people in here. They're not the type of people that I like to chill with, like to hang out with. The vibes here, the people are unbelievably nice. But we haven't had the haggis. But I'm just saying, I like the west coast of Scotland. It's sick over here. So if you're considering coming to Scotland, you can always do both too. I mean, it's not that it's a 3-ish, 4-hour drive across both coasts, but the west coast of Scotland. To me, a little underrated. At least I hadn't heard as many people talk it up as like obviously a lot of people go to. This is what I was going to do. I haven't played a ton. I've played a reasonable amount of courses in Scotland now. I was going to get my power rankings.
The golf course
that I've played in Scotland, and these I've played some of the good ones. I haven't played all of them, even close. Number one to me still Royal Aberdeen. Okay. Royal Aberdeen, the most hidden of hidden gems. Like they played a Scottish Open there, I think. Royal Aberdeen, I'll give my top 3. Royal Aberdeen, number 1. King's Barn, number 2. That's where they have the World Tour event. Yeah. And I have to have St. Andrews in there. It'll be number 3 because it's like St. Andrews. But no, it's because it's St. Andrews. It's like, that's why it's like.
Well, what's the difference between St. Andrews and Gales?
Number 4. I'll go Prestwick. Like I really liked Prestwick today, just because it was like actually I hated. Like I lost. I was very frustrated. I was Tyrrell Hatton today.
Yeah.
Out of Prestwick, I didn't enjoy the way I was playing golf, but like I liked Prestwick. But yeah, number 5. They should actually be paying us to say this. We were thinking about how we could be compensated for this take, even though it's genuine. Glasgow Gales. If you're coming to Scotland, play Glasgow Gales. I think it's like the 6th or 7th ranked in like the west is the Ayrshire or wherever we are here on the west side.
Yeah.
It's not like number 1. It's not number 2. It's like 7 or 8. Play it. Sick course. That's my number 5. My power rings. But Royal Aberdeen. If you come to Scotland, drive up to Aberdeen. It's on like the northeast corner of Scotland, and play Royal Aberdeen. You will enjoy it. Amazing course. That all kicked off from a haggis question.
Yeah, that's
Scotland. Have you guys had Iron Brew? That's another Scotland question. Have I told you about the Iron Brew?
No.
We'll talk. Okay, we'll talk about the haggis and the iron brew. I have not had it this trip. I've had it before, and I was good on not having it ever again. Any sightings of Usti? I didn't know Usti was in the field.
Yeah.
We were with Gabe, who's from South Africa, and he was like Usti's playing. Like, I want to see my boy because he's from South Africa, Stinger GC.
He retired from majors.
Yeah, we were like, no, he didn't play the PGA. He's done with majors. Like, he doesn't care anymore. Louis in the field, and if I see Louis striping tomorrow, he will be on the card.
It's like 175.
I never thought I would get to bet Louis in a major ever again. I bet him every single event in a couple years ago when he finished second every single time. It was both the most
easily finished second here.
Yeah, it was both the most glorious and terrible experience of my life. But Usti, of course. Christmas sweater, we did that. Kiowa changes both in the routing of the holes and the variability to begin with. Even a Kiowa. Any Kiowa vibes?
The pedestrian walkways.
Okay.
The pedestrian walkways are very Kiowa-esque, but the golf course not really.
Big fan from Antonio. We appreciate that. Did Sung have some trip talk about that? In or out on Rory? Haven't seen him yet. I've been on the record forever that he will never win a major again, but I rescinded that.
I'm a Rory guy, yeah.
And this is all of this is recorded. You can go back and listen to this. I rescinded that he will never win another major because I think he wins the U.S. Open by default at some point because the driving is set up so well for him. But I could see it. I don't know. I
don't think Rory.
I don't think he's got the dog. Homa, we talked about Homa on the site. Scotty had the neck tape and wanted to
check my Homa tweet.
Yeah, worth Burns Open record pretty bad though. I agree. But that's why he's 160.
Burns Open. Burns is 125 to 1. Burns Open record is really bad because he has not driven it well, and he's coming into this week driving it really well. And we saw with our own eyes that he looks confident over the driver. Am I saying he's going to drive it well this week? No, I'm just reporting back to you.
I also and we talked about this, that Scotty and Sam have been just out here playing links golf. And I would say, if you could go back in time and tell a player how to prep for the Scottish Open or for the Open, would you have preferred that they played the Scottish or that they came over early and just played similar links on the West Coast?
Now that we've played them and can compare it to and seeing what the Renaissance Club is on TV, play Turnberry, play Prestwick, play these courses near Troon. You'll get a better prep for sure. If we were caddies.
Is Cantlay healthy? Looked good to me. I think Cantlay was faking that he was hurt, so they didn't have to play the JDC. And then if he then played Scottish, it would have looked really bad. Yeah. So I think he had to not play either. But he looked
fine,
1,000%, totally fine. Is Matt still out on live at the majors? This is a listener to the pod. This is a ball knower.
Yeah, great question.
This is a great question because it came up today.
Good.
You declared. What did you declare?
Yeah, they have no chance this week.
He is sticking by his live can't win a major take, even though they won the major the last time a major was played. I have told him when he told me this, I said to him, when you've previously said this on the pod, I pushed back on it, but I was okay with you speaking these words on the pod. I wasn't gonna shit on you. This is a nonsense take.
I've said it.
No, I've justify it. Why do you still do it?
I've said it after they've already won it. And I don't actually think they have no chance, but I have to stand on my ground and pick a lane. It's simply enough. The reason I do it is because it eliminates so many guys that I can bet. That's really the only reason I do it. Because if I'm saying, okay, all these live guys have no chance, I'm only betting PGA Tour guys. So if I'm either right or wrong. If I'm right, I have a lot more fish in the pond. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not mad that I lost to Bryson. Obviously, I'm mad that Rory lost in that way, but I would have never bet Bryson. And if I can eliminate 10 golfers or maybe 4 to 5 who have a real chance to win out of the live guys, I'm going to eliminate them. So I have no beef with live players. I'm a avid live supporter. Not many people have a Crushers and a Torquay hat. Not many people have that.
You also have a Stinger shirt.
I have a Stinger shirt. I'm a live fanatic. But in these big events, when everyone's together, this could change next year. I could bet all live next year.
Right.
I'm a big stay on my ground guy.
And that's why I asked you to defend it, because that at least makes sense. And that you're saying, it's kind of an outlandish take, but you think there's an angle. It's worked for you sometimes. It hasn't worked for you others. Yeah. But if you start dancing back and forth,
if I go back and forth,
right, and you could end up on the wrong side every single time, and then you're like, this is stupid. Because it's like when it would be the same as if you bet a guy for 3 straight weeks and then you get off of him and he wins. Like, you don't want that to happen. So you're just kind of sticking with your.
Yeah, it would never happen to me. No, it's also the same as our good friend Brian. He used to bet random first round leaders, and now he's been betting his outright card first round leaders, and he's hit infinite.
Right.
Just
Like, at the end of the
stick to your
day,
plan.
golf
Stick to your
is so
plan.
like variable that you may actually have a good strategy. It may just not work every time, but that doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean it's a bad strategy. Now, you're not betting live is a bad strategy, but as a
Yes.
concept, I hear what you're
Yes.
saying. McKibben or Scotty head to head. Let me put it this way.
Good one. It's a good one.
McKibben hasn't been wearing a hat this week.
Because he knows it can get rough, and he knows
That strokes. What other Northern Irishman fucks when they don't wear a hat?
there's only two.
Rory McIlroy. So it was less of a question of McKibben or Scotty head to head, and a question of how many strokes should McKibben be giving Scotty,
Yeah,
and maybe the rest of
I'll
the
say
field
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something. Oh, Viking Cup.
I was gonna say the Viking town. We have to talk about it.
Yeah,
We had no idea.
This is actually, and this is, if you're listening for the first time, I think we need to fill in people because there's gonna be people who don't know what the Viking Cup is. We developed the Viking Cup at Valhalla, which happens to be also a Viking name. That was unintentional, but that was because we noticed there was an unbelievable number of Swedish, Danish, and Finnish Nordic players in the major. And we thought to ourselves, this is crazy. There's a lot of Nordic players in this tournament, and they distinguished themselves. It would have been one thing, like there's a lot of Japanese players in the tournament. There's a lot of different countries that have a lot of different players.
Now we get ideas.
They differentiated themselves because these guys' strokes gain preparation is at another level. They're grinding. Every single one of them just grinds. And then I said, because of that, like how would you get that many Nordic golfers where they're like 5-10% of the field in a major from fucking Nordic countries? It's cold as shit all the time there.
It's snowing every day.
But they get there because they've got so much grit and grind, and you see it at these majors. Like nobody grinds harder than this guy. They're there from sun up to sundown grinding. And so we said, you could build a team. You could disband from the Ryder Cup. They could secede from the Ryder Cup team, the Nordic nations, and create their own team. They easily have 12 guys, and you go back and listen to previous pods. We've talked through who we would have on these teams, and they would stand alone and play as their own country, as their own set of nations, as the Nordic nations, the Viking Cup, and they would compete against other countries. They'd play the U.S. in a Ryder Cup style of event. That's the Viking Cup, and ever since then, we on almost a weekly basis
we talk about it
and other events, new Viking Cup players appear.
Yeah, if you're listening to our pods like going forward, and even if like you've listened in the past and don't really know, there's multiple times where Adam and I will just say Viking. Like if a player is Nordic and like they do something good, Viking. Like that's it. Viking Cup.
We love the Viking Cup players, and we are driving. We flew into Manchester, and we drove. It's about 3.5 hour drive from Manchester out here to Largs. And a fine drive, we cruise on up here. We finally get to Largs. We're at the top of the hill before you kind of go down into the coastal area here. And there's a sign, welcome to Largs. And underneath that sign, it says, a Viking town.
Our minds were blown.
Our minds are blown. And we're like, this is fucking insane.
A Viking town?
A Viking town in Scotland? What? That just doesn't make sense. Then the next day, we're across the street from the train station that goes to Troon. Like, we're literally, it was the pure luck, but we're like right across the street. The entire train station is a monument to the Viking battle here in Largs that protected Scotland from the Vikings. And it literally says, without this battle, you would be speaking a different language. This would be a Nordic country. And we're staying here in Largs. What are the chances? It was one of the most beautiful moments of my entire life.
Yeah, and there has been subtle Viking references in every single like storefronts around. There's around the corner. There's a gym called the Viking Gar. There is just so many different things around here, and it's the chances of this happening are truly like incredible. So,
and there's and because of that, like we're always high on all the Viking players, but the insane things and why this is like, obviously it's kind of a for fun like thing that we've come up with. It is insane how each time we go to an event, there are new guys.
There's new
Denmark, in Sweden, in Finland. Like I'm trying to look at the list of the turn. Like I would go down to the bottom to these amateurs. There's dudes now in the field this week who we've never even heard of before who are from Denmark. There's a Olesen, Jacob Skov Olesen, and a new Thorborn Olesen guy.
Viking.
He's in the field. There are some more guys, but I don't have.
There's some Swedes.
Yeah, there's a Swede that we've never seen before. Like, I don't know how to quickly find the Nordic guys. You can obviously go like
VikingCup.com.
VikingCup.com and find them, but there needs to be more talk about how unbelievable it is, the depth of talent coming out of the Nordic nations. Tomorrow, for the first time, we're going to get to see Rasmus and Nikolai teeing it up next to each other in a practice round. We can't wait. But yeah, from a Viking Cup, we know there's now in the Discord, there's a lot of people who support the
Viking
Cup.
on tab.
Yeah. We'll have Viking Cup as a tab in Discord. We appreciate the support of the Viking Cup, and it's all come together here this week in large Jers. It is so late here. We're actually going to try to get a full 8 hours of sleep tonight. Like I said, I think I'm at a total of 10 hours since we left Manhattan, or since we left JFK on Friday night. Anything we didn't cover? Any parting words for the pod besides, like, if you enjoyed this, even if you just enjoyed this pod, you got an hour and a half entertainment out of this pod, go sign up $9.99 on the site. You can cancel immediately. Like it in the FAQs, it kind of tells you how to do that. Like, just the $10 for the week. I would hope if you listened to something for an hour and a half, that's worth $10 of your time, you know? Yeah. And again, you don't have to. You can listen, like, and subscribe. That's a nice way to help us out too. But I do just have to plug that because obviously coming all the way over here to Scotland, not cheap, but we're doing it because we think there's a lot of value in it and we think people really enjoy it. But outside of that, any other
we've
things?
done we out of all of our boots, we've done well. We've had the guy in the final group every single time. So why not keep it rolling here? I think you and I both have a great head on our shoulders, a great handicapping prowess, and a great boots mind. So I think we're going to do that this week and keep it rolling. You're going to get great info.
What's of all the golf shots that you've hit this week, what do you think your best shot's been?
After I went OB on the drive,
that was honestly, like, that might have been the best shot we've seen, even from the pros. Also, Tommy,
that was the same shot.
Tommy had, it honestly was. Yeah. Tommy had shot of the week at Pinehurst. He also had shot of the week so far today. Tommy, when it comes to just striping in the practice rounds, mine would be the putt that I made today.
Yeah, I made about a 55.
I think it was like 70
foot putt from off the green on an uphill par 4 that was like 480.
Who would you?
It was like a 480 yard uphill par 4 that no amateur golfer, maybe not even a 4 handicap, could reach into. And Adam made a comfy.
Yeah, I think I had 277 in on my second. And from the rough, I had to like lay up, and then I came up short of the green and made a long putt. Who is your comp as a player? Like, who are you?
Hey, and like I used to say this when I was like a long time ago. It used to be Scotty because I was driver short game. I said that before he was good. Okay. Like before he was Scotty.
Like, how many? Was this after he won Waster?
No, before he won everything because he was a driver short game.
So early
Scotty. Now I would say it is. I can't putt. I am kind of like I've turned into a small BSB. I'm a bad BSB.
Yeah.
I'm honestly Andrew Novak.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm honestly Andrew Novak.
I like that. I've been for a long time on the record that I'm Malnati because I hate to report. I used to be good. I'm not anymore. I've had, like, it's something you have to talk about out loud. I've had the driver yips for years, and I don't get to play it all. Like, I never get to play because I'm in New York. I will say what I have found this trip is the driver is starting to at least go back in the right direction. But I'm Malnati. The only way I ever shoot anything good is purely from like chipping in multiple times and making like long putts. I think that's unfortunately remains my comp. But I've decided, I was going to tell you this earlier, if I'm going to keep playing golf because I may never play golf again after tomorrow, I'm going to try to become driver putter. Because I think, like, if I spent all my time dialing in my driver, my putter's good enough. And if I just decided to be driver putter, I think I could become like a poor man's Thomas Dietrich.
Who did we compare to like that? Like a poor man Xander a while back? Because that's my goal. But do you remember we had that conversation?
Oh, a PGA Tour player?
Yeah.
Davey T.
No, he was someone before that too. But we'll have to circle.
We need to see Davey T tomorrow anyway. But all right, folks, we really appreciate everybody. It's crazy, like, when we do these, that we do it for an hour and 40 minutes, and for the most part, like, we can see the number of viewers. They kind of like stays. People listen the whole time, which is amazing. We really appreciate it. We hope that it adds flavor and excitement to your major week. Like, these are the best weeks of the year. This is the last one of the year. At least we have the Olympics this year. Obviously, we won't have boots for that, but that's still going to be a great event. But last week of the year, I always say this to myself more than anything. enjoy it. Whether you win your bets, whether you lose your bets, watch the Open, drink it in. This is going to be a great golf course. This is going to be a good Open. I hope we get some weather to add some spice to it. But all in all, should be a great week. We appreciate the subscribers. We appreciate people listening to the pod. We appreciate the people of Largs and Scotland. Everyone's incredibly nice here. The most knowledgeable fans, of course, in the world of golf. Everybody knows that. We'll be out there at Troon tomorrow. On the odd chance if you're listening to this and you're there. Everybody always sees Jers. He's a very recognizable guy. Come say hi. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys.